diaspora, who has a stakeholder, who are the stakeholders in Africa, all those things. And I think this will be a great panel. Most of you know you personally. I'm going to put a disclaimer out there for those people who come, and I'll say this over and over again. This is a very sensitive issue, I think, for the Pan-Africanism. So I'm going to ask the panelists to be honest, to ask the hard question, address the hard questions, and for the audience, also for those people who are sitting here, to just really critically think about the issue at hand. Because as Africa grows, as we continue, as young people go back and forth from Africa to here, we need to really define what our role is, what we're doing, so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. That being said and done, I'm going to introduce our panel, which is great. I am really honored to speak today. I'm going to start with Natasha here. Natasha is one of the pioneers of the U.S. Africa Ambassadorship Program. The U.S. Africa Ambassadorship is a leadership program that deals with youth empowerment, and she's a dedicated community service. She's a dedicated community service and has won numerous awards, including her being one of the rising stars in the African community. So, Natasha. And is it Basim? Basim Chawi. He is an educator. He is also an activist and a communicator, professor of English at CUNY Queens College and John Jay College of Criminal Justice. He is the chair of International African Arts Festival, Brooklyn, New York, and an executive producer and host of Education at the Crossroads heard on WBAY 99.5 FM. Sorry, WBAI. Now, Salome, I'm going to say she's one of my favorite people because I've known her for how long? How long have I known you, Salome? For quite a while. And she founded Africans in the Diaspora. She is a philanthropist, an activist, an organizer. And over 5 years, she has served in the GFC Students Program, no longer applicable, I believe, because now she is the executive director of AID. And let's see, what else can I say about her? She spends her time now working on that organization full time, and I'm sure you can spend some time telling us more about that. And I don't think I really need more introduction from you, right? And my other favorite person is my brother. I don't know if he's my big brother or my little brother. Which one? Alright, he's my twin brother. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
He knows how to edit.
So, Kweku Awa, you saw that, you heard that, it wasn't just me. Everybody heard it's being recorded. It's being recorded. So, he's the president of Operation at 54 Kingdoms. He's also a designer. I was planning to wear this skirt today, but, I think I've worn it too many times. Oh, wow. Because I love the skirt, but I'm trying to just spread the love a little bit. But 54 Mr. Awa identifies or evaluates and pursues the strategic and financial prospects of new market opportunities for the company. If you're familiar with 54 Kingdom, I think you'll find out that this is the perfect venue for them to discuss what they do, not just the fashion, but the educators. They are, and I'm going to point out to Nana because the two of them always travel together. You see one, you see the other. And I really admire their work. I admire what they're doing. I admire, even though we have points of contention sometimes, I think that you'll find that they're very, they've done their research. So they know what they're talking about. And in that sense, I look forward to hearing what he has to say. I'm going to be asking questions a little bit as you guys present. You have to come to the podium, I've heard, to present. And you have about 10 minutes. I'm going to try not to cut people. But just really feel free to express your opinions. And I'm just going to put a little bit of introduction because I went to Ghana about a couple months ago and I discovered there's a lot of contention between the Africans here and the Africans living in Africa and the Africans who live here. and there's just really, there haven't been a clear-cut communication or finding places of synergy where we can actually say, this is how we can work together. And I think it's, and I'm realizing that it's very important for us to define that. What is our role as Africans? Do we go back? Do we stay? If we stay, what can we do? If we go back, how do we engage Africa in a whole new way in such a growing economy, and also the way we are identifying ourselves, whether we are Africans in the diaspora or you're part of the African diaspora? This is always contention. Is it first, second, third generation, or are they Africans who lived here for how many years? So that is a contention that I've found a lot with Africans who we engage with each day. And I think I would ask for the panel maybe to make that clear when you're presenting. Tell me what do you mean when you say African in the diaspora or Africans living in the diaspora? What does that mean? And in that, also answer the question, who in this time and age, who has the right to Africa? Should we be giving a rite of passage for everybody who identifies themselves as Africans? Or is there a way we can actually have a different way of engaging Africa that doesn't involve us going back or involve us really having this contention and maybe not having a clear-cut identification of who we are when we're here, especially? Is that a clear or maybe fair assumption and fair request to make on the panel? Yeah? Okay, so first up, Natasha, are you ready?
Like,
yeah, they want you to come here.
oh, okay.
They like you that much. Right? Okay.
So, hello everyone again. Thank you for being able to make it today. I would thank the panelists for being able to make it today. I'm honored to be part of this important discussion panel because I believe that the question all of us are asking ourselves today is, what is the African diaspora and what can we do to engage into the development process of our beloved continent? So again, my name is Natasha Boyd. I stand as the Executive Director of U.S. Africa Synergy. U.S. Africa Synergy is a 501c3 New York-based non-profit organization whose mission basically is to foster durable partnership between Africans and Americans, engage African diaspora in the sustainable transforming of Africa, and harness resources for empowering youth and for building stronger community. So our goals basically to achieve that mission is, one of them is to equip African youth with skills to succeed in their academic, personal, and professional endeavors through basic programs like financial literacy trainings, college counseling, entrepreneurship development, and also, very important, we empower African young women because we believe that they have been quite left aside in the process of developing the continent. So as Stephen said, through the U.S. Africa Ambassadorship Program, we empower young women between 18 and 27 years old. And I think they have been doing a great job lately. So that brings me to the topic of the African diaspora. How do we re-engage with Africa? So out of this topic, I see two things. I see first African diaspora, and I see re-engaging with Africa. So how do I define the African diaspora? I see the African diaspora as, I would say, people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship or nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent. So this is my definition of the African diaspora. So now when we talk about re-engaging, when I see re-engaging, it means that somehow, somewhere, it has been a disengagement before. And therefore we need to know why the African diaspora was disengaged at first. Because if we don't know why they were engage at first, then we cannot respond to the question of how to re-engage them or when to re-engage them. So my response to why the disengagement of the African diaspora at first is some of us, when we leave our countries, you know, West African countries have been doing pretty well. You know, I will name Nigeria, Ghana, you know, quiet, peaceful countries. But lately, Central Africa is all over the place. And I come from Cameroon, Central Africa, and it's politically unstable, economically terrible, horrible. So when you leave the country, you feel like, hell no, I'm not going back there. Like, my body is going back there, not me. Because you don't know what is in there for you. Everything is upside right, you know, left, right, center. Nothing is organized. The leadership is whack, and it's horrible. So that's the first thing. So when we go abroad, we're striving to achieve our academic and professional goals. And we all know that when you're trying to achieve, you know, go to school in the US, you're trying to work part-time, full-time jobs, it takes you a lot of energy that you cannot really focus on what is going on back home. At that point, what you're thinking of is to survive, you know, to be able to pay your bills, to be able to go to school, you know. And if you can send a little bit of money to your parents back home, but fine. If you cannot, they will survive. So at the end of the day, those are a few reasons why I believe that some of us just disconnected from the continent, because we're trying to survive and because we're trying to run away from everything going on back home in the continent. And some of us, even at times, some of us coming from, you know, quiet countries, from West Africa, we think that, okay, we're going to come to the US and go to school and then go back home and then invest our knowledge back home. But at the end of the day, when you end up with a $90,000 student loan, you think differently. You feel like, okay, this is a $90,000 loan I have to pay. I'm going back in Nigeria. I don't think those nairas they're going to be giving to me could pay that, you know? So I better find a job here and try to, you know, pay off my bills and try to. And then you come again looking for a job. You're distracted again from the continent because you're trying to find a job, trying to find a house, trying to find a wife, trying to, you know, it's just a bunch of things distracting you again from the continent, even when you feel like, okay, after this, I'm going back to help. So those are a few reasons I will mention for how or why the African diaspora, meaning we, are quite disconnected from what's going on in the continent. So the other thing I will say is, after all that, some of us, regardless, are willing to go back home. Regardless of what's going on back home, regardless of the instability, political instability, we're willing to go back home. The question now is how? Are we going as investors? Are we going as entrepreneurs? Are we going as scholars? Are we going like... So I've seen pretty much cases where you come here, you go to business school, you have an MBA, and you're trying to go back home and start something, start a business. And you go there with bright ideas, you know, with energy, because some of us are young. And when you go there, you hit a big, huge wall, because you come out with this huge project, bright ideas. And you present, you go maybe to the Minister of Education if you're planning to build a school or a university, you know, to change to help the population in your country. And then only because you are not lucky enough to have a parent or to have an uncle or a sister or a boyfriend or a husband working in the government, your project will be, you know, just trashed and put in the dustbin. And that's the end of the dream, because unless you're strong enough to fight, unless you're strong enough to overcome barriers, to push to the fullest, you'll be discouraged. You'll be like, okay, you know what, I tried. I put all this great project together, but they didn't allow me to help my continent, you know, they disrespected my intelligence. So what am I even doing here again? And the next thing, Brussels Airlines, Arik Airlines, and you're back to the US because you couldn't make it. So I think that we should start at the root. If we have to re-engage with Africa, this is how I will re-engage with Africa. I will re-engage with Africa, first of all, politically, because I think that the structure in Africa is so messed up that even though you come and you try to re-engage through entrepreneurship, you're trying to re-engage through education, you're trying to re-engage even through anything else, if the structure is not solid enough, there will be a backlash. So until we have our administration right, until we have our structure right, there is nothing that can be done effectively for us, Africans in the diaspora. I know the system right now is kind of dangerous because I remember my mom told me that you can be involved in everything you want, but please stay away from politics. Because, it took time to your dad and I to give birth to you, and too much investment, and politics is nasty in Africa, it's dirty. We don't want to lose you. So stay away from politics. Okay, Mom, I got you. But at the end of the day, if all of us, we stay away from politics because it's dirty, because it's nasty, because our lives in danger of getting involved into politics. So what's going to be happening in Africa? We're going to keep having these selfish leaders who really don't care about the welfare of the population. I'm coming from a country where I remember when I was in university, an amphitheater of supposed to take 500 people. I was finding myself into an amphitheater full of like 1,000 students. So how effectively can you educate somebody in this type of overwhelming environment? But let me tell you something. I was surprised to come to the US and see all these leaders' children enjoying the luxury of Columbia University, Paris University, when other Cameroonians like me are burning in the heat in the amphitheaters in the country. So you ask yourself, who do we have as leaders? Why can't you adjust the system, education system in your country and have your children go to school in your country? Why are you leaving poor kids, helpless children like us, with no hope, with no future, but investing in yours, but abroad? So this is a system in which we're living right now in Africa. And the only thing I say, and I'll say it again, is unless we decide to be courageous enough to go back home and say, you know what, we need to fix our politics. We need to be part of decision makers. We need to be taking the lead. We need to give our ideas at the top, not at the bottom. Because at the bottom, it will take you like a year for somebody to hear your voice. But if you push, and it will take us to come in a united front, because when we come one individually, the voice is so weak. But if we come together and say, this is us, this is diaspora, this is us coming in a group, we're strong, we're united, one voice, one person, it will have an impact in what we're trying to achieve. So, to make it, to close this, I would say, how are we re-engaging with Africa? By starting from the root. And the root of the problem in Africa is our leadership. And unless we do something about it, everything else we can do will not stay for long. We can, with the NGOs we're running, we can send as many books as we want in Africa. We can send food. We can send anything we want. But how long is that going to last? You will not spend your life helping people when you can fix a system that will help them the entire life. You cannot keep, sending. I have an international NGO that came to Cameroon and say, oh, they brought all these computers and everything, and the university students that were so excited that finally, computers. In 2008, we were so excited to see computers in Cameroon in this age, in this century, in 2008. That's how backward we are in Africa. And beside the excitement, The next thing is, okay, where are the computers? You will not even see one of them. But you saw the computers coming out of the truck. But where are the computers? The computers are in the principal houses. The children are using the computers. And the computer was supposed to be for us, the student, we pay the fee to use the computers. We're not seeing anything. Again, leadership. With this type of people, we can do nothing in Africa. And it's time to go back and do something about it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.